I'll call to order the March 8th meeting of Senate Education and ask our secretary to call the roll.
Senator Buck, Senator Donate, Senator Flores, Senator Hammond, Senator Neal, Senator Titus, Chair Lang.
Thank you, and please mark Senator Neal present when she arrives. She's at another hearing. So I really want to thank everyone for your indulgence in starting a little bit late. We had an extremely long hearing this morning that went all the way till noon, and we just needed a little break so that we could be in a better place for today's hearing. We are going to do the bill hearing first, and then we're going to have a presentation from NSCA. And I would ask everyone to please make sure that your electronic devices are silenced. And if you wish to testify today, if you'll remember to sign up on the clipboard by the front table. When you get up to testify, make sure that you say your name and identify who you're with, and each time you speak. And remember to turn on the microphone. I forget half the time. Presenters have provided 10 copies for members of the public and submitted their presentations electronically to the Commerce and Labor Secretary by our manager by 1 o'clock yesterday. And if you don't have those materials, they're also available on Nellis. We'll take public comment in between the bill hearing and NSCA's presentation today from Las Vegas only, because their room is used later in the day. And in case we go long, I want to make sure if people are down there that we give them a chance to give some public comment. You can also submit your full comments in writing and briefly summarize them in spoken testimony. And committee members from time to time will be using their laptops, as that's how we go look on Nellis and get information when we're in bill hearing, so we can ask even better questions. So with that, I am going to open the bill hearing. Senator Hammond on Senate Bill 196.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the Education Committee. For the record, I am Senator Scott Hammond from Senate District 18. I appear before you today to introduce Senate Bill 196 relating to interscholastic activities and events. I know it's going to surprise many of you, but high school athletics, I have been around high school athletics for many, many years as a participant. Many years ago, I don't look it now, but I used to be able to play it. Thank you. No, not audience right there. I used to be able to play a little bit of basketball and some other things. I've been around as an athlete. I've been around as a coach. I've been around as a fan, supporting neighborhood kids, church kids. I've been around as a parent. And so, when the reason why I'm bringing this bill today is because I'm concerned about the equal access to sports, high school athletics. And I'm also, I'm very passionate about making sure that folks have the equal opportunities of completing their high school athletics endeavors and whatever they so choose to pursue. So that's the reason why you have this bill here today. I'll go into the bill itself, what it does, and then I'll hope to answer all the questions you may have, but I really want you to understand the rationale for it more than anything. And I'll be working on the bill. I know several people have called me recently, several of the school districts, especially the rural districts. We certainly want to work on making sure we reduce whatever burden or cost might be associated with this bill, because that's not the intent. It really is to make sure that we are giving access to sports, high school sports, to potential athletes. So what you have in the bill is Section 2. It defines out-of-school activity as an activity not associated with the school, including a club, team, or athletic camp or program. Section 3 codifies existing regulation that prohibits a coach, manager, or other person associated with a sanctioned sport or spirit squad at a school from making a pupil's participation in an out-of-school activity a condition for qualifying for a team or for accepting the pupil as a member of a team during the season for the sanctioned sport. The section further outlines the consequences of such a violation. The reason why this section is in here is because I've heard from too many parents, potential athletes, that when they went to try out for a sport, they were told that if they didn't already participate in a club or an AAU team, they shouldn't even bother coming out to play for their try out for their high school team. That is what drove me to this. When I kept hearing over and over again that these allegations were being heard by several people, so it wasn't just one or two. It's out there. It's pervasive. Clubs and AAU teams, they're here to stay, but I think at this point we need to try and figure out how to rein them in. Section 4 requires principals of schools affiliated with the Nevada Interscholastic Activities Association, or NIAA, to submit a report to the NIAA each July that includes certain information on coaches, managers, or others associated with the sanctioned sport and who also earn compensation for related out-of-school activities. Furthermore, Section 5 requires the notification to a pupil and the pupil's family of the rights afforded to a pupil while participating in the sanctioned sport or other interscholastic activity or event, including that a person may not, 1, compel the pupil to participate in an out-of-school activity, and 2, make a pupil's participation in an out-of-school activity a condition for qualifying for a team participating in a sanctioned sport or spirit squad. And then finally, and this is the other part of the bill, Section 7 provides that a pupil who is enrolled in grade 9, 10, 11, or 12 at any time during the state of emergency in the COVID-19 pandemic is eligible to participate for at least 10 consecutive semesters and 5 seasons in any sanctioned sport, spirit squad, or other interscholastic activity for which eligibility rules are established by the NIAA or a school district. So, in conclusion, I urge you to support 196, and I stand here ready to answer any questions that the committee may have.
Thank you. Are there questions from the committee? Senator Titus.
So thank you, Madam Chair, for the question, and thank you, Senator, for bringing this bill forward. As a physician of many years, seeing all kinds of sports injuries, even in my rural area, my rural district, the kids would go in and play club sports in the bigger communities, and they'd play them year round. And this is more of a comment. I appreciate this bill because if the child already has a talent to make them play year round, I saw more sports injuries when they were playing a single sport year round as a youth, as opposed to when they played, if they're an athlete and they would participate in all the sports, it gives them their joints the time to rest a little bit, especially in volleyball in particular. Those were the injuries I saw if they continue to play. So I would encourage families to have their kids play other sports and not necessarily continue a single club sport year round. It does increase harm and risk of injuries and youth. So thank you for bringing the bill forward. Not a question.
No, it's not a question, but if I could, Madam Chair, if I could address that. Thank you, Senator Hammond, for the record. I totally agree. I mean, I saw the same thing. When you saw athletes that participated in 2 or 3 different types of sports using different muscles and different activities, it just seemed like it was better for the athlete, and it reduced the number of injuries. So I completely agree. And I think it does speak to the bill because sometimes when you're forcing your athlete to participate after high school athletics in a club or an AAU team, as a condition to come back and play for your high school team, you're forcing them to use that same muscle year after year. Now, if the athlete decides they want to do that, that's up to them. But again, I just don't think that they should be forced to do that or told or however they're going to do it. That's why I think the bill is needed.
Okay, I have a question. So in section 4, in the reporting part, I feel like the principal is the person responsible to submit the report. How do they ensure that the coaches are telling them? And do you need to put maybe something in there that puts more onus on the coach to report?
Thank you for the question, Madam Chair. Again, Scott Hammond for the record. I definitely, what I need to do is, to be honest, take more feedback from a few of the principals, districts, and I need to get their feedback on how this might work, because I've already heard from a few of them, and I'm beginning to think that we need to change the language a little bit right here to make sure that we're getting the compliance that we want, and the process is better. I also think that they have a lot of suggestions on how to cut down the cost. So, this is the one section I will be working on in the next few days, maybe weeks, to make sure before I bring it before a work session that we have that worked out and that all the districts are buying into it.
Thank you. And does this apply just to paying club teams, or would it apply to rec sports as well? Where a coach isn't maybe getting paid, but he maybe is coaching the team.
Correct. Again, Scott Hammer for the record. I believe that what we're trying to capture is where somebody is making money at it, not necessarily a rec. But we do want to make sure we know. There's two things that I would like to try and capture. One, that they're not requiring it as a condition to compete in their athletic program in high school. But two, we want to make sure that, we're trying to find out who is making money at this. And so I think in one case, you wouldn't want to necessarily capture the name of a coach because they're not making any money at it. But again, there's the other process of trying to figure out whether or not a coach is compelling somebody. That would be reported, and it could be, you could face a penalty for doing that.
Because I would think that you have some coaches in high school, let's just use high school as an example, that would compel their team to go play on X coach's team. And so their team stays together and plays together in the off season, which gives them a leg up on other people that can't stay together. Or for those people that don't have the financial means to be able to participate in a club sport, would not be able to participate, and then their coach wouldn't even consider them for the upcoming season. Is that correct?
Thank you, Madam Chair, for the question. Scott Hammond for the record. That's exactly right. I feel that this is a equal access bill. For those parents who can't afford to send their kid to an AAU team or a club team or to a sports camp, let's say that the coach is requiring that they go to a sports camp, and they can't afford it, well, they shouldn't be denied access to at least a tryout or to get on the team. But what you're seeing is that, each year the coaches are trying to shuttle them to certain teams. I know that down in the South, in Las Vegas, there was a certain volleyball team that stayed together for 4 or 5 years, whatever it was, out of 8th grade, 9th, 10th, 11th, and they ended up winning state. But they were playing 100% of their team was on the same team, both in high school and then a club team. They got really good. They played really well together. But that's, you couldn't get anybody else to try out for the team because basically that team was going from one season to another. Other states have been addressing this issue. So it's not just the state of Nevada. In Florida, they have several other rules. One of them that I came across was that no team, no AAU team, no club team could be comprised of more than 65% of their high school team in order to try and break it up. I didn't want to go that far, but I do know that it's probably time that we start looking at how do we rein this in, because it's big business now. And but again, I think it could be detrimental to the high school athletic programs, because that's not what we're trying to achieve. We're trying to make sure that students have the ability, the access to participate athletically in their high school experience, in their high school areas, and that's what we're trying to get. And so that's why the bill, but that's exactly the issue.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions from people on the committee? Seeing none, thank you so much. And we'll go to public testimony. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to speak in favor of Senate Bill 196? Anyone in Carson City? BPS, is there anyone on the phones?
Thank you, Chair. To testify in support of Senate Bill 196, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers on the line wishing to testify in support at this time.
Thank you. Is there anyone in Carson City wishing to speak against Senate Bill 196? Anyone in Las Vegas wishing to speak against? And I think you said the phone lines were clear, so I don't think, do we have anyone on the phones?
We do have a caller, Chair. Let me just make the announcement. To
Okay.
testify in opposition to Senate Bill 196, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller, you're unmuted. Please proceed.
Hello, this is Paul Anderson. I am an attorney with the Maupin Cox and Lagoy Law Firm. I represent the Nevada Interscholastic Activities Association. I'm here to testify with respect to the bill and wanted to point out to the committee that the NIAA is a body that is heavily regulated through the NAC. And much of what Senator Hammond has placed in this bill are regulations that are already in place that the NIAA has. And I would specifically point out NAC 385B.370 subsection 4, which states that a coach of a school that complies, let me see here, with subsections 2 and 3 may assist a pupil in an activity that's related to a sanctioned sport during the off-season, but the participation of a pupil in an off-season with a particular coach from their team, from their high school team, cannot be done as a condition to qualify for the high school team. We have a similar regulation, NAC 385B.372, which places restrictions on participation in out-of-season activities, and again goes to the issue of coaches conditioning participation on the high school team by virtue of being a member of a particular club team. So these are matters that the NIA is regulating and has regulated already that are in place. And it's our position that we can address these issues and have been addressing these issues through those regulations. It's always been prohibited that any placement on a high school team be conditioned on a particular student athlete playing on a club team sponsored by that particular coach. We also are concerned in this day and age with these reporting requirements and that sort of thing with respect to our member schools, additional work being placed on our principals and our schools that are already stretched with respect to finances and that sort of thing. It's my understanding in listening to the testimony earlier that may be something that Senator Hammond's going to look at further. Also, a concern would be the potential to lose coaches at the high school level who, because of these regulations, may make a choice to coach a club team as opposed to continuing with their high school team. So those are concerns that the NIA has, and I would be happy to answer any questions anybody on the committee may have.
Thank you, and I would encourage you to get with Senator Hammond and discuss your concerns and see if there are changes that you might want to work on together. Does anyone on the committee have any questions? Senator Flores.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for joining the conversation today. I wanted to dissect just a little bit further that last comment regarding coaches potentially opting out from participating in high school athletics as a consequence to this bill. If you could just please explain that further, because my understanding is if there's a high school coach that also is a club coach, as long as that high school coach isn't saying you have to play in this club in order for you to participate in school. As long as the coach isn't doing that, then the coach is good. And so I'm just trying to understand if you're reading deeper into that, or if
Well,
you're seeing something different.
maybe I'm reading a little deeper into it, but I see it as additional regulation being placed on our coaches. I can see where they're going to have to be involved with respect to the reporting requirements as the bill is presently written, and just perhaps taking the stance that they would rather just not deal with it, and simply coach it at the club level, where they can certainly pursue whatever they want. That's pretty much unregulated. So that's the concern. We're having issues and have since COVID and even prior, with coaching anymore is a difficult process, and dealing with parents and that sort of thing. I'm not saying just that, but everything involved with it. And so, we don't want to place additional requirements on coaches that would result in potentially losing good people, within our high schools.
Thank you. And could you just state your name for the record?
It's Paul Anderson, and I'm with the Maupin, Cox & LaGoy law firm. I'm the attorney for the NIAA.
Thank you. And Senator Flores has a follow-up question for you.
And just for my personal insight, is it your experience that finding good coaches now is a problem? The reason I'm asking is I understand that there's going to be an added layer of reporting, and I'm just curious to know what the general kind of energy in the space is. Are schools having a very difficult time finding coaches?
Well, I think some are, and it's like everything else. We're having difficult times not only with filling coaching positions at all levels, but also officiating positions and those sorts of things. It's a struggle right now with respect to high school athletics, and so anything that places additional requirements that we feel that we are already regulating and our coaches, we believe, are abiding by, is a concern, just from that standpoint.
Thank you.
And for the record, that was Paul Anderson again. Any further questions
Yes,
on
I'm
the
sorry.
committee?
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Don't worries. It looks like we have no more questions on the committee. Is there anyone on the phones that wishes to speak against?
Here, the public line is open and working. However, there are no additional callers on the line at this time.
Okay, anyone wishing to speak in neutral?
Good afternoon. My name is Anna Binder, ANNABINDER. I am one of the co-founders of Let Them Play NV. We're a pack of about 3,700 parents that came together during the pandemic when sports were canceled. I didn't pass this into our parent group because I wasn't sure where it was coming from, so I appreciate the conversation between Senator Hammond and the remarks from counsel from the NIAA, although I neutrally would tend to agree with NIAA. The pandemic that we have with our coaches that we are seeing right now, for example, in the last 3 weeks, we've had 3 high school coaches removed from campuses for what the community kind of feels is unsubstantiated reasons. And because they're volunteers with the Clark County School District, we're kind of unsure exactly how to help them because they're not employees. But yes, we have lost 3 really great coaches in just a matter of weeks. And those are principal decisions or, school site decisions. And I can't even begin to count how many this year. I want to say it's under 10 total. But what we're seeing at the high school level from at least the parent side is potentially corruption at the admin level of the school district, and they're just kind of coming or going with really good coaches. And I did tell the Board of Trustees at their last board meeting, when I heard about a recent one, that I couldn't imagine. I played high school sports, and I could not imagine having gone through the pandemic and then to come back and not even 2 years later, you rip my coach of 4 years from me out of my life. You know, coaches we know play a huge role in our student athletes' lives. I don't know where I would be today if somebody had taken like my dance team leader or my volleyball coach from me at a junior or senior level of high school. So we have a lot of concern for that. So again, I appreciate the conversation, but I think we have bigger issues, and I do appreciate the language to correct the per semester plays due to the pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you. And just as a side note, I taught in the phys ed department in the school district, and all our coaches at our school were paid. So I go back and check that.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Mary Przenski, here representing Nevada Association of School Superintendents, an organization composed of all 17 superintendents. And we want to thank Senator Hammond for his willingness to speak with us and to work with us on this bill. Equal access for our students is important. And we have a meeting with him tomorrow, and we hope that we can get everything worked out on the bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to speak in neutral? Okay, Senator Hammond.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll keep the comments brief. Yes, I understood the NIA's concern. We did lift a lot of this language away from their regulations. What I felt was needed, though, is this conversation, and in order to make something a little bit more weighty. Again, I think we need to rein in the system that's being created. The proliferation of the clubs, the year-round playing of sports. Look, I love it all. I coached for 15 years. I love my athletes. I love my time coaching, and I don't want to do anything to disparage or the coaching, the coaches and what they do. And I don't want to discourage them from coaching, either at the high school level or anywhere else. And I don't think this bill is trying to do that. What it's trying to do is say to them, let's let everybody have a chance at playing high school athletics. Let's not make a condition of playing in your clubs and your AAUs and all this other, the out-of-school clubs that have proliferated in a lot of the metropolitan areas and even in the rural areas, be a discouragement to kids trying out for their high school team and being a part of that spirit, the esprit de corps that occurs in a high school athletic career. I'll point out that one of the things I think we added to the bill or to the process is sort of a penalty. And I think if you notice, I don't think that exists in the regulation, but in Section 3, subsection 2, we did say that if there's a violation, that the NIAA may prohibit the person from coaching, managing, or otherwise be associated with a sanctioned sport or spirit squad at a school for no more than 1 year. So we're adding some teeth to it a little bit to remind people, to remind them what their duties are as coaches in the high school setting compared to a club team. And your high school setting is allow people access to your program, allow them to come in. I coached for years, and not every athlete I had was somebody who played for years and years and years. From 6 years of age on up. I took a lot of girls. I coached mainly varsity girls basketball, and I took a lot of girls who never played before, and now all of a sudden they're juniors in high school, and I coached them. I tried to give them some skills. I tried to make sure they knew what they were doing on the basketball court. I instilled in them a desire to work hard and to be a part of a team, and to come out of that, even if it was only 2 years, to come out of that with a sense of, I can do this. If I can do this, if I can go through a practice with Mr. Hammond, then I could do anything. And that's what high school athletics is all about. It's not about, hey, can your parents afford to put you in a club team for $5,000 a year? It's not about that. And so that's why I wanted to put this bill in and to get that conversation going. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. And with that, we'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 196. I don't know why I can't remember that. And so we are going to have the Nevada State Education Association speak to us today. And we're going to have you up here on a day that it decided it was going to snow a whole lot, and there were going to be a whole bunch of people dressed in red, and we were going to get to hear from a lot of teachers. And I'm sorry that didn't happen, but we're so glad that we could reschedule it for today and have you all be here to tell us your story. I just want to remind all of you to say your names before you speak.
Thank you, Senator Lang, and thank you, committee, for having us back. My name is Dawn Echeverry, and I've been a music teacher in the Washoe County School District for 30 years. I have the honor to serve as the president of the Nevada State Education Association. In addition to being the voice of Nevada educators for over 120 years, NSCA represents educators from across Nevada with local affiliates in all 17 counties. Our membership includes licensed educators, support professionals, retirees, and aspiring educators. NSCA is a member of the National Education Association, the largest union in the United States. The National Education Association was the primary driver for the federal investment in public education to address the impact of COVID-19 pandemic in our schools. Leading up to the passage of the American Rescue Plan, NEA members across the country wrote hundreds of thousands of messages and placed thousands of calls to their representatives advocating for Congress to make the largest investment in education. Our efforts helped secure $1.5 billion into our Nevada schools. Federal funds are available to trust teacher retention. While many districts have given one-time bonuses, which limited some of the educators' departures from last year, structural changes are needed to fix this crisis. Never seen it this bad. America faces catastrophic teacher shortages. Districts grapple with the worst teacher shortage as new school year nears. We need teachers. Rural Nevada schools struggle to attract help. Students pay the price. The shortage of educators is a nationwide issue, but examples of overwhelming vacancies here in Nevada have made national news. We have felt the shortages in all parts of the state. Tonopah High School junior level English class is currently being taught by a teacher on a video screen. Tonopah High School has 3 teachers when they should have 9. School violence is so bad in this district that even teachers are targets. Finger pointing over school violence targets restorative justice law. Washoe County School District teachers say they have been attacked and physically threatened. It is clear from these headlines that there is an interplay in school violence, the educator shortage, and mental health crisis. Educators fearful for their safety or who are no longer able to deal with disruptive classrooms are leaving the profession. Lack of engaged adults in the school leads to more disruption and violence. NSCA has worked with stakeholders on several bills in front of the legislature this session to address the issue, but it will require a real hands-on deck approach. I have the privilege to be joined by 2 of our very hardworking educators in the state, and I'd like you to hear from them and their stories today. Carrie, why don't you start?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee members. For the record, my name is Carrie Finn, and I work as a clinical aide here in Carson City at Pioneer Academy. I'm also the president of the Carson Educational Support Association, and I am also Education Support Professional of the Year for Nevada. The importance of ESPs cannot be understated. We are there for our students each and every day. One of the reasons I was chosen as ESP of the Year is because our kids go through so much, whether health-related or personal, and I am sometimes the last and only person students can turn to. This afternoon, I'd like to share with you what it's like to be an education support professional in Nevada. We like to say that education support professionals are the backbone of our public education system. It doesn't matter what the title is, our end goal is the same: making sure that our kids are safe, healthy, and receiving the best possible education. Without education support professionals such as bus drivers, bus attendants, clinical aides, nurses, paraprofessionals, nutrition workers, custodians, IT workers, administrative assistants, librarians, and building grounds and maintenance workers, schools cannot operate properly. Teachers cannot be the teachers they need to be, and students cannot get the education they deserve. As you can see, based on the many roles we hold, ESPs keep our students healthy, safe, engaged, supported, and challenged so that they can be academically successful. We have all witnessed firsthand the awesome impact these dedicated professionals have had on every student they encounter. Each one is a positive role model and plays a key role in making our public schools great for every student. Unfortunately, the reality is that too many education support professionals earn below poverty level wages and have to work 2 or even 3 jobs just to make ends meet. Some make as little as $11 an hour, and due to the school year, we are unable to collect unemployment during the summer months. It sadly speaks of the income levels when we have education support professionals living in their cars, weekly rentals, or in campgrounds. It's no wonder there is a shortage of ESPs to help run our schools. However, as ESPs do, we come with solutions ready to fix problems. That is why we are in support of Time for 20, which you'll hear a bit more about shortly. For ESPs, Time for 20 is not a campaign for raises, whether it's a 20% salary increase or $20 per hour. It's a campaign for a living wage, which I really think changes the narrative. I myself am a single parent, and after working 15 years with the Carson City School District, I currently make $20 an hour, and I live on $2,000 a month. As much as I love what I do, I simply cannot afford to work for the district anymore. Without proper funding to retain and hire education support professionals, districts are losing them at a rapid pace. People who might be interested in these positions are finding better paying jobs elsewhere and a much safer working environment. Time for 20 is about competition. Education support professionals go into the education because they have a passion for working with students, but they must also be able to support their families. Last interim, the Nevada State Education Association proposed an educator bill of rights to improve educator safety and to respect educator voice, but our proposal was largely disregarded. Given the frequency of the violence all educators face each and every day, the Educator Bill of Rights then evolved into the Respect for Educators Act. In addition to the wage issue, there are constant safety issues ESPs deal with each and every day. We are seeing more and more education support professionals, such as paraprofessionals, bus drivers, bus attendants, and secretaries, being physically and violently assaulted by students. You've read the stories in the news. I have personally assisted staff members in my office who were bit, choked, pinched, punched, and kicked by students. This is a picture of a special education paraprofessional that was headbutted by a student. She received a concussion, broken nose, and black eye. She resigned last week. I have also witnessed elementary students destroy classrooms because their teachers simply told them no. The other students in the room were terrified, crying, and had to be escorted out onto the playground during SBAC testing, while the one student flipped over desks, threw computers, and screamed obscenities. Public schools are not institution, and one student's rights should not supersede the rights of others. As education support professionals, we are constantly told that we must provide a safe, respectful learning environment for students. And yet, we have not been given the resources from the state or our districts to do so. Unfortunately, bills in previous sessions, such as AB 168, which is about provisions governing the discipline of pupils, have left out the important educator voice on this topic. When bills leave out ESP voices and then are not properly funded or implemented, we end up with education support professionals who leave the profession due to safety concerns. Assembly Bill 168 has left many schools and school districts unsure about the student discipline system, opting for little or no student discipline at all. We hope that that changes this session, and we are encouraged to see many of the planks of the Respect Educators Act in bills that have been introduced this session. Education support professionals across the state will be testifying loudly to share our stories about how these bills will benefit us each and every day. In closing, we would like to remind everyone that you can't spell respect without ESP. The vital roles ESPs play inside and outside of our classrooms ensure students are safe, healthy, and ready to learn should not be forgotten. Please consider the ramifications to Nevada public education by not having education support professionals in schools due to inadequate wages, lack of safety, and proper funding for all districts. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair and committee members, thank you for having me here today. My name is Brent Busboom. I'm a teacher of 24 years, 21 of them at Reno High School. I teach English, and during my testimony today, I'm going to start with a story. The story begins, as so many of our great stories do, with once upon a time. It ends with these words. Sad story, isn't it? Here goes. Once upon a time, there was a group of teachers. They lived in a land called the Silver State, and they loved their jobs very much. They weren't paid very well, but they were told not to worry. They would be compensated in other ways, with notes and hugs and Starbucks gift cards and the heartfelt thanks of parents whose children flourished. But as time went on, they ran into problems. They wanted to buy a house. Their car broke down. They needed to pay for childcare. But the banks and the daycares and the auto repair shops, they wouldn't accept their kind notes or their hugs or their thank yous as payment. So the teachers started to fret, and they tried to scrape by. Every 2 to 4 years, governors and legislators told teachers, don't worry, we'll take care of you. They said this on websites, they said this in campaign stops, but they never did. So as inflation rose higher and higher, the teachers fled the classrooms of the Silver State, first in the hundreds, then in the thousands, never to be seen again. Sad story, isn't it? You see, my story began in fairy tale mode, once upon a time. It's a fairy tale that every educator I know is familiar with. But what's the fairy tale? I would argue that the fairy tale is that Nevada can continue to treat its teachers as poorly as it does and expect them to do anything but leave in droves. Here's the deal. The governor wants to put billions in a rainy day fund and stabilization account. He may think it's not raining, but after decades of underfunding, it's pouring. Teachers are leaving by the thousands. My friends, my colleagues are leaving. I know 5 teachers at Reno High School right now who are good, very good, veteran teachers who are considering retirement. So what's the solution? Here's what past governors and legislators have done. In 2011, lawmakers created an alternative route to licensure, an ARL. In 2015, the Teach Nevada Scholarship gave prospective teachers up to $24,000 in tuition. In 2016, Governor Sandoval declared a state of emergency, allowing teachers from other states to get a provisional license. In 2022, Governor Sisolak signed another emergency regulation, this time making it easier to get substitutes in the classroom. All of these were supposed to fill the gap. All of these were supposed to keep my colleagues in schools, but they didn't. Shortages just increased. The problem with these solutions is that they focused on the wrong part of the problem. They focused on recruitment. But here's what we know. Nevada can't recruit its way out of the problem that we're in. It's a failing strategy that's been tried again and again and again. What we need to focus on is retention. As many of you probably know, and if you don't, I'm happy to remind you, Nevada is one of the worst states in the United States at retaining its teachers. And if you care about retaining teachers, if you don't want to see even more teachers leave next year, the governor's budget should be dead on arrival. He thinks it's not raining? You've got to be kidding. Let's review. The legislature created ARLs and handed out scholarships worth tens of thousands of dollars. The result? The teacher shortage increased. But the governor says it's not raining. Both previous governors declared states of emergency over teacher staffing. The outcome? The teacher shortage increased even more. But the governor says it's not raining. At the beginning of this school year, we were down almost 3,000 teachers. And it's not raining? Look, here's the deal. If you don't want teachers to leave in even greater numbers, teacher salaries have to keep pace with the last 3 years of inflation. In 2021, that was 7%. 2022, 6.5%. Projected inflation for 2023 is 6.4%. That's 19.9%. So let me be clear on this. If you don't fund education enough where districts can give teachers a salary increase, not a raise, but a salary increase of 20%, and that just keeps us even, it's going to be a pay cut. The good news is you don't have to raise taxes. The money's there. It's not a zero-sum game. You can work on teacher retention and fund a rainy day fund and fund a stabilization account. Let me end with this. Most of you have no idea what it's like to be a teacher, but all of you know what it's like to be a student. You know what it's like to sit in a classroom with a substitute who can barely keep control. You know what it's like to be around someone who doesn't know anything about the subject because they're just there as a sub. All of you know the mind-numbing, soul-killing boredom of sitting in that classroom. And I believe that all of you, regardless of what you think about what I said, wouldn't wish that for any Nevada student. But let's be honest. While we sit here today, there are tens of thousands of Nevada students sitting in a classroom without a qualified teacher. Right now, there are Nevada children filling out some meaningless worksheet. Right now, there's some Nevada students watching some horribly boring video. And why are they doing that? Because their teacher doesn't know how to do anything else. They're a long-term sub, and that's all they know how to do. They've just been shoved in there to babysit. There are tens of thousands of Nevada students right now who are sitting in Nevada classrooms who would love to be learning, who would love to be inspired, except that won't happen. They don't have a qualified teacher. Sad story, isn't it?
The Nevada State Education Association believes Time for 20 is an investment in educators and education that is needed. The Economic Policy Institute reports that public school teachers are paid 23.5% less than similar workers in other occupations. Our national association, NEA, ranking of states shows that the number of Nevada teachers decreased by 6% from 2011 to 2012 school year, while their inflation-adjusted pay decreased by 7%. The nationwide educator shortage is especially bad in Nevada. As my colleague mentioned, we started the school year short 3,000 positions, and we currently have 2,500 vacancies. Thousands of education support professionals across the state earn significantly below a living wage, with starting salaries as low as $11 per hour. One example of the staffing shortage is the inconsistencies in student transportation. Last year, a chronic bus driver shortage in Clark County School District caused serious delays and stranded students for hours. While in Washoe County School District, we saw a rotation of bus routes. The latest inflation data shows prices are up 14% over the last 2 years, and home and rent prices have skyrocketed over 20% since the pandemic. With an unprecedented shortage of educators to teach our kids and make our schools run, Time for 20 means a 20% increase to educator pay, $20 an hour for workers who make our schools run. And with some of the largest class sizes in the country, Time for 20 means reaching an average class size of 20 students. Educators need to feel safe at work. High-profile school violence events are not new, and workplace safety is a significant concern. NSCA believes a strong restorative discipline system could reduce incidents where educators sustain injuries. However, this system should include real accountability for any violence committed against an educator and should provide educators with tools necessary to deal with the disruptive behavior. The Respect Educators Act calls for the creation of a restorative practice monitoring committee that includes educators from across the state, legislators, and NDE to gain clear understanding of the impact of the laws, ensure consistent implementation, and secure protection for all students and educators. So I do want to make this point very clear. Nevada does not have a teacher shortage. We have a shortage of teachers who are willing to continue in the profession. To improve worker morale and the quality of education, educators need to feel heard and respected. NSA would like to thank the committee for rescheduling our presentation after Northern Nevada weather did us all bad. And with that, we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that thorough presentation and your stories. Is anyone on the committee have questions? Senator Flores.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the presentation. I especially like the conversation around the ESPs, and I think we can engage in that a little bit further, maybe when I come back to my second or third question, but 'cause I assume everybody has a couple. But maybe we can start at the end with the restorative justice conversation. I've had an opportunity to engage in that conversation with other folk, and obviously there's a lot of conversation to be had that we can talk about it for days, and we still wouldn't get to the root of a lot of things that are happening in our classroom. But I am curious, I've had a lot of teachers bring forth some of these horrible situations that we all know of, El Dorado High School being one, but that's one that got attention. There's a bunch that don't, right? And my family, I have teachers in my family, and they tell me some of the things that they go through almost on a weekly basis. So I understand it's difficult, but I am curious to untangle that conversation a little bit, because some of the scenarios that we've been highlighting kind of as the focal point why we need to kind of roll back and peel back some of these restorative justice practices and implementations we've utilized some of these examples of somebody hitting a teacher or an admin or et cetera. And my understanding is now anything like that would trigger that student being removed from the classroom, but maybe you can educate me a little bit on that so that I can better understand that side of it. And if we can start the conversation there, and then maybe if Madam Chair allows me, we can engage in a couple more questions. Whoever would like to address that.
So in severe cases of violence?
Ma'am.
Oh, sorry, Dawn Echeverry, for the record, sorry. In severe cases, you may see removal, but it's temporary. We don't have the programs where a child who needs an alternative placement could go. We believe in restorative practices, but we believe there needs to be further steps to help a child who's in that situation. And in the everyday classroom, interrupting all the children, disruptive classroom is not the place. So I think it's the next step we're talking about too. How do we assist a child without putting him back into the regular classroom?
And what is your perspective on some of these conversations around restorative practices? So, for example, not more than 2 weeks ago, I had a bunch of amazing teachers in my home. I wanted to learn from them, and they obviously know my role, and had a bunch of high school teachers, but we had some middle school and elementary school teachers there too. And we were literally just going around the table for hours and just learning. And I think one of the things that they brought up is they felt that there wasn't a full commitment or a full buy-in to the restorative justice's approach. And, you know, for example, one of the things that they brought up is part of that conversation involves building a relationship with the student. And in some instances, a teacher, because they're overwhelmed with a million obligations, there hasn't been an opportunity to build that. In other scenarios, there hasn't been an opportunity to really believe that there's a benefit to that. Maybe that there's hesitation. Is this really even the right approach? And there's maybe some pushback, and they didn't want to implement that type of conversation. And then other folk just told me it works with some students. I have that relationship with these 15, and it's worked great. And then there's these other students that I haven't been able to make that connection. So maybe we could talk a little bit about that, because I think that's also important.
Brent Busboom for the record. In 24 years of teaching, I've sent 2 kids down to the office ever. I think most problems that I've ever encountered can be handled in my classroom. But there has to be red lines. There has to be clear red lines to say this is not acceptable. And if this happens, you're going to be removed not just for the day, but permanently. The things I could probably tell you about, like the language wouldn't even be appropriate to use in this committee. I think relationships are foundational. The reason I'm successful as a teacher, when I have success, is because of the relationships I have with students. But you also have to understand that there are some students who are gaming that system. I hear students all the time who I like, but they'll say, if you get in trouble, they're going to ask you how you felt about it. And what you need to do is you need to say, that's really not how my family raised me, and I feel really bad about it. And then they'll let you do anything. Once again, I say this as someone who has not sent kids down to office. I really do think most problems can be handled in the classroom, and I think they can be helped with relationships. But I don't think everything can.
Dawn Etchery, for the record, I'm going to continue the conversation. Restorative justice needs more training, and it needs continuous training. It's not a one and done. We don't put educators in a room for one day, give them the highlights, and then put them in a classroom. 2, class sizes are beyond capacity, and relationships are hard to build if you have 35 kindergartners in a classroom, because you need the time one-on-one. And I'm from the elementary level, where I believe if we can start those processes in kindergarten with those relationships and start seeing a child and needing to work with a child, then by the time they come to a high school, we will have helped a lot of those issues, because they're going to have trust in educators. And the last is, we need a licensed educator in every room. We've put bandages on getting people into classrooms, ARL programs, emergency sublicenses. They're not trained, they have not gone through the pedagogy on how to work with a child and see through the surface. So I think 3 issues need to be addressed to make restorative practices work.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Neal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I just want to dig into that just a little bit more. So I was quickly looking over this, and I don't know if this was discussed, but a lot of the issues and the headlines that popped up, like around restorative justice, the school violence, and I'm just going to talk about the 2 years. Because one thing that was stated was that depending on where you were, like say you were 5th grade, found yourself in online school for 6th and 7th grade, then you're physically in school in 8th grade, there was a social learning curve that happened with students, period. they didn't mature within the actual environment. They didn't learn the school environment. And then all of a sudden, here they are, 8th grade in middle school. Middle school is hard enough. Same thing for, the middle schooler who found themselves 10th grade. And now they're like, I don't even know what high school is, but because they didn't get the benefit of being a freshman, having to go through the process and understanding. And one thing that has popped up consistently is being able to address all children equally without this additional stigma of, well, it seems like they may be this disadvantaged child, so therefore I need to examine this kid differently. I feel like we don't have enough conversation, and I know the district doesn't, about how do we manage children who have a different learning ability, and the different learning ability is literally that their home environment is not sustainable for education, right? We don't even talk about it. And I agree with you that a seasoned teacher can see through the surface. Why? Because you've seen 10 years of behavior. You've been at a middle school level, you've been at an elementary, and so you see the problems popping up. But what do you propose is the solution when we know that we're going to bring in teachers, we need to bring in teachers, the master teacher is no longer in play within the schools. So what is the dynamic that you want to have occur 24, 25 when we have these new teachers that we hire that are going to come into these at-risk schools and have to figure it out on the dime? What's the plan?
Don Etcher, for the record, Senator Neal, that is, of course, the golden ticket, right? But we are not spending time talking or training at that level. We are doing flyby trainings. So even a new teacher may have heard it once, but there's no follow-up to help them, guide them through. I agree, mentor teachers are leaving, and that is the secret, right? To put them, every novice teacher should have a well-rounded expert teacher. Our solution is we have to get our teachers back in the classroom. They're here, they're in Nevada. They're not in the schools anymore, they've left. We need to show them that we hear them, we respect them, and you should come back to teaching because your knowledge base is there. And that's where their hearts are too. So we believe that we need to get those teachers back into our classrooms.
So let me ask you this, because when you say that the training, professional development has been minimized, is that at the school district level? Because, when we did 469, we gave more control at the school level. Or is this from the district level? So, because I was in the schools, right? And there was training. There's a lot of training. You just find yourself in training for whatever, right? Whether or not it was SBAC, cross-curric. So where are you seeing it minimized? Are we talking about COVID, or are we talking about after we got out of COVID?
Carrie Finn for the record. So I work with the ESPs. I'm not in the classroom. I work in the health office. So I see the students that are hurt, and I see the staff that are hurt. We are trained in what's called CPI, Crisis Prevention Intervention, and that's like maybe once or twice a year, and that is simply not enough. For me, that is simply not enough, and I just feel like, when is enough? Why are we allowing staff to be hurt and these students are allowed to return? I don't get it. We are only trained once or twice a year. They have brought in social workers. I work very closely with the social worker at my site, so we do work with students. But there is not enough training.
And Dawn Etcheverry for record. So I want to address your concerns too. I think you stated our concerns. It comes from the top. It can come from here to the Nevada Department of Education, down to the districts, down to, we have so many trainings, SBAC, or whatever the newest reading program, or whatever the, personally, I am a music teacher who holds 3 different certifications and trainings in the different reading programs, the different math programs. But probably restorative justice and more techniques would have been better use of my time, correct? Because where I do need to know how the kids' reading process is, as the music teacher, I count to 4. I think we have so many trainings that we didn't prioritize the trainings that we need to build the base.
Madam Chair, quick follow-up. Sure. So let's say you roll it back, get rid of it, right? Restorative justice. Well, I don't know what the plan is. I don't know. Some people are saying get rid of it. Some people are saying, I don't know what the alternative is, right? But if there's a problem with the current part of it, I want to give this example. So I had this student in Cheyenne High School. He came from a behavioral school, but he was returning to regular school, or how we want to call it. So here's one of those exercises first day of school, right? You say, hey, kids, introduce yourself, put a little statement about what school you came from so the students can just do a round robin, right? He didn't want to talk about it. The reason why he didn't want to talk about it is because he came from Peterson. He didn't want anybody to know that he came from this other school because he doesn't want to be harassed about it. He doesn't want to be bullied about it. He is already walking in with what he felt was an existing label, an existing altered identity about who he was, and academic loss. I knew this, yet he went to history, he went to American government, and for some reason, they took his attitude or refusal to answer as a disobedient child. It was never disobedience. I let the principal know, this is a kid to watch. This is a kid who is probably, he already feels marginalized. He already has other thoughts going on in his head about who he's trying to be, but he is trying to reestablish himself in school. So you need to have a conversation with his teachers. Not, I know what's going on, but I'm telling you so that you can advise everyone else how to treat and engage this kid. Next thing you know, within 3 weeks to 4 weeks, he was missing school. He's missing school because he's a child. He's 16, cannot articulate, I don't want to be mistreated because of where I am. I'd actually want to learn this material and be treated just like everyone else. See me as Joe, see me as Sam, that's who I am. But for some reason, it's this perceived attitude which looked like he was being insubordinate that tagged him and then got him removed from class. You don't want to answer my question, therefore. I don't want to answer your question because I'm embarrassed to answer the question. The question puts me at risk with the rest of these young kids who don't have good sense to keep their mouths closed, who are going to harass me in the hallway. And I'm trying to avoid getting into a fight. Is what I'm trying to do. But we don't talk about that in the restorative justice context. We don't talk about engaging those children. Those children were there well before restorative justice was even a policy. But we were still engaging those kids in the same way. You are disruptive to me because you failed to answer my question. Not asking what is it about this child that is making them not answer my question? And this is black, white, or other teacher, right, who engages at that level. And that's a classroom management style. But classroom management is not supposed to be abusive. Order, control, yes. That does not mean an abusive environment for a student. And I think we should talk more about that.
Brent Busboom for the record. I don't know enough about restorative justice to understand how restorative justice would interact with what you've just described, but every teacher I know who has had difficulty with student behaviors wishes that was all it was. I mean, I don't think anyone that I know wouldn't have a lot of sympathy for that kid. That kid sounds like he went through a lot. But when you have a kid in your class tell some girl in explicit terms what he wants to do to her, and then the teacher tries to intervene and he pulls his fist back, and then you have, I watch kids walk down the hall and tell administrators, F you, like I can't even say what they say, and then say, you can't do anything, it's just the way I talk. I mean, I think those are the problems. I mean, if that was the issue, I 100% agree with you. That, those teachers needed to know ahead of time about that kid. And certainly in my classroom and the teachers I know, that would not have been a problem.
Dawn Etcheverry for the record. Senator Neal, I want to point you to slide 13, I believe. Mine's not numbered, where we've asked for the creation of a restorative practice monitoring committee so that we can actually have these real conversations. Because I think part of the problem with restorative justice is we don't have all the stakeholders in the room having real conversations about the students. Those are the students, that's where I teach, that's what I love, but we need to have truthful conversations, and that's why we are calling for this creation of this monitoring committee so we can have that honest dialogue.
We're going to take our last question from Senator Buck.
Thank you so much, Roberta. Miss Lang, Senator Lang. It's all good. In theory, having students restored, I believe in that. They mess up, that you're able to kind of parent them as an educator. Spending my life's work in education, I've seen many restored. So in theory, I believe in restorative justice in that we're improving the student and giving them dignity to be able to fix their mistakes. I think that the mistake that was made in AB 168 is you took away all autonomy so that when you implement progressive discipline and it's a situation where a student is maybe being a bit disruptive, there's all sorts of a continuum of that. And when it gets serious where other students in the room are threatened, and I've had several teachers reach out to me, educators, principals reach out to me, that when you have a series of bullying, a student bullying several girl students over and over and over, and there's nothing that can be done but meeting with the parent, it's really helplessness is what happens to the educators. They become helpless and the principal's helpless because there's not much that can be done aside from just talking them through it and hoping that it changes. Since I've been a practitioner in this, I do feel the pain of these teachers, and no wonder. We wouldn't, in a normal workplace, want to go through the abuses that some of the teachers do in our schools. So I completely agree with you with that. I also agree that teachers and support professionals need pay raises. Absolutely, I agree with that. I know the governor has said $2 billion to education. So my question is, I'm finally getting to that, how can we ensure a portion of that $2 billion goes to educator pay raises?
Mr. Daly, did you want to answer that question?
Madam Chair, Chris Daly, Nevada State Education Association. I don't serve in the Nevada State Legislature. I think everybody take a sigh of relief. But there are many mechanisms that could be used. I think a bill dropped today on the Senate side that had a $250 million appropriation, and then a mechanism by which districts would have to match an increase. I would say to our membership who are education support professionals, about half of our education support professionals, upon my first reading of that bill, were left out of it. So that might be a problem. I don't know if it was intentional, but I think that happened. It calls for raises for teachers, other licensed education professionals, and paraprofessionals. Paraprofessionals make up about half of the education support professionals who run our schools. I'd also point out that 3 school districts, if you've been in or followed the K-12 budget presentations in the subcommittee, 3 school districts in Nevada will receive no increased funding over the course of the next biennium. So those 3 districts will likely be unable to offer any, or certainly any significant raises to educators, as their funding will remain flat. 2 or 3 other districts will have relatively small increases based on coming out of hold harmless from the conversion to SB 543. So in terms of answering your question, I think I'm better at pointing out, possible problems or pitfalls than I am to design proactive, solutions and how do you ensure raises. I do believe years ago that the legislature actually did appropriate and specifically call out for, I don't know if it was teacher or all educator raises with an appropriation. It was kind of a clean appropriation bill that districts went to districts and then districts could process. That is a way to do it. I, in my mind, have thought long and hard about the idea of moving collective bargaining to around wage and economic issues to the statewide level. That's done in the state of Hawaii. That would be a way for the legislature to have more say and control directly over raises and wages. A conversation I'd be interested in having and pursuing and following up on. So, I think that there are ideas out there. If there's a will, I think there's certainly a way to get it done. I would imagine that the Legislative Council Bureau would also have some ideas about how you could go about doing that. Although I would say, in terms of the $2 billion, and then even the $250 million proposal that I believe, I don't know if that's Senator Canizaro's bill or whose name's on that bill. I just saw the BDR. But as far as the $2 billion, I was having a conversation with Clark County Superintendent Fueling in the hour. I'm sorry.
Carson.
What did I say? Clark? You were demoted, AJ, to Clark County Superintendent. Carson City Superintendent AJ Fueling in the hour before this meeting started. Most of that $2 billion, which is $1 billion a year, is really going to go to just increases in cost of doing business. Likely, a portion of that will be for educator raises, but all of the other costs in districts have gone up as well. And since there hasn't been a significant increase in per pupil funding since 2020, what we're talking about is largely 15 to 20% increase in cost of doing business since 2020. And so that $1 billion, probably $750 million to $800 million of it, really just gets eaten by inflation. Although the flip side of that is that inflation likely will include educator increases. And districts are the ones, who are more directly struggling with the vacancy issues and their operational issues. So I think that, when you have the superintendents in here and are talking to them, hopefully you can have that conversation about what needs to be done to get those positions filled. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Anytime I can get this opportunity.
So let me add, the bill does say other licensed personnel and paraprofessionals.
Correct. So OLEPs would be like counselors, social workers, speech language pathologists, those types of positions. So in terms of the education support professional class, obviously paraprofessionals is a large percentage of ESPs, but then you have, bus drivers, food service workers, custodial, maintenance, IT, office staff, et cetera.
Okay, so I commit to looking into it, and I'll connect with you.
Appreciate that, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we want to just thank you so much for being here today. And I think you probably left school today to be here, and we appreciate it so much. I'm going to do public comment. Is there anyone in Las Vegas for public comment? Anybody on the phones for public comment?
Thank you, Chair. The public line is open and working. However, there are no callers at this time.
Thank you. And we have a couple people here in Carson City.
Madam Chair, Senators, Anna Binder for the record again, ANNABINDER. I'm just here now on public comment, but I am a member of our Behavioral and Mental Health Advisory Policy Council. I have a son who fits the description of everything that you've heard here today when it comes to special education. He suffers from deranged mood disorder. He has autism, amongst many diagnoses. He is the child that will rip the cupboards off the wall. He is the child that I think most staff fear, and when they go into work. And I've had to take responsibility as a mother for his treatment and the way that he was raised, and then building the family around him when he goes to school. And there has been no one more instrumental for him than his teachers, his SBAs, the SBTAs, the counselors, the principal, the bus driver, like the lunch lady, you name it. By taking every single person on that campus and building a relationship with him, they each can hold him accountable in their own way, and they get to know him. And so when, I will say, he got suspended 2 weeks ago for disrespecting the lunch lady. And when I got called and was told, I asked what the punishment was. And the AP said, well, he's going to get lunch detention. I said, no, he's not. He's going to get work lunch detention and breakfast work detention. And I sent him, after a suspension, back to school to go in and prepare, clean, serve, and do her job so he could earn back her respect for what he said to her. I know it's hard to get parents to step up and do that, but I'm going to finish without crying. If it was not for that school staff, right before the pandemic, the day they shut airlines down, we were supposed to get on a plane to take him to Boys Town in Iowa because we didn't know what to do with him. And then for 2 years, I had to figure it out. So I love everyone on those campuses, and because of them, he's still living at home and attending school today, and he has straight A's. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Lang, Vice Chair Flores, members of the Senate Education Committee. My name is Gil Lopez. I am the Executive Director of the Charter School Association of Nevada. We are a membership organization advocating for public charter schools. I had an opportunity to address the Senate Finance Subcommittee on Public Safety this morning, and I'm here to address an incident that occurred on the day before Valentine's Day. To provide some context, some of our public charter schools participated in sending Valentine's Day cards to various legislators. We regret that any public charter school may have been perceived in connection with the card that was sent to Senator Harris. We acknowledge the card received by Senator Harris was inappropriate and offensive. We do regret participating with any organization that holds these views. We will speak out against any language that is not inclusive of the many students who attend Nevada public charter schools and live in Nevada. We stand in solidarity with Senator Harris and the LGBTQ+ community, communities of color, and agree that these types of hateful thoughts, words, and actions have no place in Nevada. As an organization that supports schools in the second largest school system in the state, educating nearly 67,000 children and employing over 8,000 adults, CSAN firmly believes that in creating a supporting, inclusive space for all people in Nevada, we will fight against any words or actions that attempt to make our state, schools, and communities less safe and welcoming. We will continue to work with our school leaders and full community to create a more inclusive and respectful community. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate those comments. Okay, so with that, we will end the hearing on Senate Education. We will next meet on Monday, the 13th of March. Meeting adjourned. If the committee members would come over here real quick so I can talk to you.